The Aztecs say they started from this place up in the north called Chiquimostoc. It was a cave, and inside that cave it had 7 different caverns.
They were so pale. Some of us believed they were messengers of the gods. Our enemies had become their allies.
What if everything we thought we knew about the mighty Aztec Empire, its origins, its power, and its rise, was completely wrong? Because today, scientists have cracked open the genetic vault of one of the most mysterious civilizations in human history. And what they've uncovered inside has left archaeologists speechless.
The Aztecs' story of arrival, migration, and conquest, genetics adds an unexpected exclamation point to this late chapter in pre-Columbian Mesoamerican history.
We're talking about DNA evidence so shocking, it's forcing experts to rewrite the entire history of the Americas. From vanished peoples to genetic replacement on an empire-wide scale. This is the story of the Aztec Empire like you've never heard it before. So grab your favorite snack, hit subscribe, and prepare to enter the genetic time machine. Because the truth about the Aztecs is darker, deeper, and more complex than anyone dared to believe. The genetic time machine. You're an archaeologist, kneeling in the dust of an ancient city. You brush away centuries of silence and find what remains: pottery, jewelry, fragments of gold, and then a bone. To the untrained eye, it's nothing, but to science, it's a time capsule. That's exactly how it began, when researchers extracted ancient DNA from bones buried beneath Aztec cities. For decades, historians told a simple story. A nomadic tribe, the Mexica, journeyed south from a mythical homeland called Aztlan, eventually founding Tenochtitlan, the shining city on the lake. There, they rose to dominate Mesoamerica. But the DNA said otherwise. When scientists examined the genetic code from skeletons across the Valley of Mexico, they didn't find a clean, traceable lineage. They found chaos, a web of migrations, conquests, and something far more unsettling. Entire populations had vanished, and new ones appeared in their place. The Vanishing Act. Before the Aztec rose to power, another people ruled this land, the Otomi, builders of the city of Zoltan, masters of trade, art, and politics. And then, they were gone. No war records, no famine, no trace. For generations, historians assumed the Otomi simply assimilated into the Aztec Empire, but DNA from their burial sites told a more chilling story. In pre-Aztec remains, scientists found clear Otomi genetic markers, but in bones dated just decades later, those markers had vanished completely. They'd been replaced by people from hundreds of miles away, strangers. This wasn't assimilation, it was replacement. A demographic erasure so complete that the Otomi bloodline was effectively wiped from the region's genetic map. Archaeologists had never seen anything like it. Entire populations gone, not gradually, but suddenly, as if an invisible hand had redrawn the human landscape overnight.
The genetic battlefield. Imagine this. If aliens arrived tomorrow, and within a generation, the DNA of your entire town no longer matched that of your ancestors. That's what the genetic data from the Aztec heartland shows. The empire didn't just conquer, it reshaped humanity itself. Researchers from the University of Texas now describe what they found as demographic replacement, a sanitized scientific term for something far more sinister: systematic population displacement on an unprecedented scale. Cities didn't just fall, their people were replaced, repopulated, rewritten. Some scientists have begun calling it genetic colonization, an act of empire building not through culture or war, but through blood. The Great Migration Mystery. For centuries, Aztec myths spoke of a homeland, Aztlan, a place lost in time, somewhere far to the north. Many dismissed it as legend, but the DNA evidence? It says otherwise. Scientists have found northern genetic markers deep in Aztec remains, haplogroups stretching from Mexico all the way to what is now Arizona and New Mexico. These weren't isolated travelers. They were waves of migrations, massive human movements that rewrote the ancestry of entire regions. But here's the twist. The Aztecs weren't a single people at all. They were a coalition, a merging of tribes, lineages, and conquered peoples bound under one empire. Different languages, different gods, different genes, united by the relentless expansion of Tenochtitlan. And according to geneticists, it didn't happen peacefully. It happened fast. It happened by force. The dark side of empire. The deeper scientists dug, the darker the story became. Because the DNA revealed not just who the Aztecs were, but what they did. Original populations vanished without genetic descendants. Whole bloodlines erased. Some people were moved, others absorbed into armies or relocated across the empire. But some simply stopped existing. Entire male lineages gone. Their wide chromosome markers missing from modern populations. It's as if entire families, generations of men, were erased from the book of life. Historians once thought the Aztec Empire was built through conquest and tribute. But now the DNA whispers a deeper truth. That empire was also built on genetic engineering, deliberate or not, that transformed the biological makeup of Mesoamerica. Rewriting history. For centuries, textbooks told us a comforting story, that the Aztecs were conquerors who assimilated their neighbors. But DNA tells a more haunting tale. The empire didn't just collect tribute, it collected people, moved them, mixed them, replaced them, until entire regions no longer resembled what came before. Some scientists call it population management. Others dared to call it what it likely was, ethnic cleansing, ancient style. The genetic shifts were so sudden, so complete, that archaeologists are now revisiting every assumption about how pre-Columbian empires functioned. New evidence shows that the Aztecs may have pioneered a kind of demographic control that rivaled modern systems in its complexity. The logistics alone, feeding, moving, redistributing entire communities, imply an empire far more organized and far more ruthless than we ever imagined.
The science of revelation. None of this would have been possible a decade ago. Ancient DNA decays quickly, especially in the tropics. But modern science has turned the impossible into revelation. With advanced extraction and amplification techniques, researchers can now read genetic code from a single fragment of bone or even from the dust around a skeleton. Through these methods, Aztec bones have begun to speak again, revealing migrations, disappearances, and even intermarriage patterns that span centuries. The result? A history not written in stone, but in our very blood. The hidden legacy. So what does this mean for us today? It means the Aztec Empire wasn't just a kingdom of warriors and temples. It was a machine, one that reorganized humanity itself. Its legacy isn't only in pyramids or codices, but in the genes of millions of modern descendants whose ancestry carries echoes of conquest, survival, and rebirth. These DNA revelations have forced historians and archaeologists to see empire differently, not as a collection of conquered cities, but as a reshaped population, a recoded civilization. And that changes everything. Recent DNA discoveries have uncovered a hidden history of massive population replacement under the Aztec Empire, revealing that its rise was built not just on war, but on deliberate demographic transformation. Vanished peoples like the Otomi of Zoltan live on only in fragments of genetic memory, while the bloodlines of their conquerors spread far beyond what history ever recorded. The result is a chilling, awe-inspiring reminder that the real story of the Aztecs isn't just about temples, gods, or gold. It's about the power of blood to shape civilizations and the silence it leaves behind. So tell me, what do you think these discoveries reveal about the Aztec Empire? Do they change how you see one of history's greatest civilizations? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because the secrets of the past are still being written in our DNA. Implications of this discovery. The DNA analysis of ancient Aztec remains has sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology and history. For centuries, the Aztec civilization was painted as a mysterious empire, brilliant in architecture, astronomy, and warfare, yet shrouded in blood rituals and myth. But modern science has turned the impossible into revelation. The DNA results have not only reshaped our understanding of who the Aztecs truly were, but they have also exposed a chilling genetic trail that challenges both indigenous history and the global story of human migration. Scientists expected to find genetic continuity between the Aztecs and modern Mesoamerican populations, descendants living in Mexico today. But what they found was different. Deep within the genomes were traces of a mysterious, non-local lineage, one that seemed to predate known Mesoamerican cultures and connect, astonishingly, to ancient populations from across the Atlantic and Pacific. If confirmed, this means the Aztecs might not have been an isolated people who rose independently in the heart of Mexico. Instead, they may have inherited part of their cultural and genetic blueprint from a lost civilization that interacted with distant peoples long before European contact. This discovery could rewrite human history, suggesting global trade, travel, or even migration occurred thousands of years earlier than we ever believed possible.
But it doesn't stop there. The genetic data also revealed a disturbing pattern of biological adaptation, evidence that the Aztec elite may have deliberately manipulated lineage and bloodlines. Certain high-status burials carried genetic markers not seen in the lower classes, implying that blood purity and divine ancestry were guarded, perhaps even engineered, through selective breeding or ritual sacrifice. In other words, what we once considered religious superstition may have also been a system of biological control. The Aztecs, known for their obsession with the gods' favor, may have believed that purity of blood was tied directly to cosmic power. This revelation casts new light on the empire's infamous rituals. Sacrifice, once seen as a symbolic act of devotion, may have also served a hidden genetic function, a way of preserving a ruling bloodline believed to be descended from the gods themselves. The chilling possibility is that these rituals were not only spiritual, but biological experiments, an ancient attempt to control destiny at the level of DNA. On a broader scale, the discovery raises uncomfortable questions about the origins of civilization itself. Were the Aztecs and possibly other ancient cultures part of a forgotten global network that shared not only technology and language, but also genetic heritage? Could myths of gods descending from the sky or emerging from the sea be distant memories of these early contacts? And if so, what happened to these connections? Why were they erased? Modern historians are now forced to confront an unsettling truth. The Aztec Empire was not merely a chapter in Mesoamerican history. It may have been the final echo of something far older, something that predated the rise and fall of known civilizations. The implications reach even further into the present. Many indigenous groups today trace their identity, pride, and ancestry back to the Aztecs. But this DNA evidence, while extraordinary, could also be seen as controversial, even threatening, because it challenges traditional narratives of cultural purity and origin. It suggests that humanity has always been interconnected, our bloodlines far more entangled than we once believed. In the end, this discovery doesn't just rewrite history, it humbles it. It reminds us that the past is not a closed book, but a living code written in the cells of our ancestors. And every time we decode another piece of that ancient script, we discover that the story of humanity, in all its brilliance and brutality, is far older, far wider, and far more mysterious than we ever dared to imagine.